Greetings, Wanderer, and welcome to subreddit storytime at Rip Daddy's house. I'm Dave Makes Noises. Today, we're asking the D&D players of the interwebs, when was your character's most fear-inducing moment? TLDR, cleric with death touch narrowly avoids touching the necromancer to tell him off for raising a dead friend. I suppose I should tell you about my high elf light domain cleric, Shanaria Amastasia, or just Naria for short. Now, where to begin with her? Naria is the longest surviving member of this party, and a caring soul who became an adventurer to help others. She largely achieved that, but at the cost of most of her sanity. This was largely due to her family's bloodline curse. I won't go into too many details here, but essentially her whole family was cursed by Tiamat, and when an Amastasia reaches full maturity, which is 100 years old, the effects begin to show. The curse, which we've dubbed Tiamat's Spite, is always different from elf to elf, and the effects usually correspond with one of Tiamat's heads. Naria's curse comes from the Black Dragon head, and basically she can deal a metric boatload of necrotic damage to those she perceives as allies if she touches them, although it's been known to flare up and affect everyone in range of her if her emotional state flares. Although her father gifted her basilisk skin gloves to occasionally lessen the effect, it has resulted in the deaths of a few innocents and 2 comrades. One comrade in particular was a goblin rogue named Maxlow, a very lovable player character who is best known for grabbing shinies and dishing out stabbies. He was also known for being downed and brought back up so many times that he swapped his archetype from Arcane Trickster to Revived. Anyway, he died due to Naria's curse flaring while she was unconscious, and she was devastated that she couldn't do anything to save him. She then did what she did to every party member that has since died and gave him his last rites, as well as say a prayer for him. She wasn't able to bury him, however, because the party was in a bit of a hurry. Things got a bit hectic once the kobold necromancer, Cole, reached level 6. This level, he was able to use the Animate Dead spell, and guess which readily available corpse he decided to raise with this? That's right, Maxlow. Needless to say, Naria was absolutely livid, not just because he raised a corpse she had read final rites to, but that he raised a dear friend. She decided that he needed a stern talking to. She tried lecturing him, but he wasn't very receptive, trying to fake sleeping like a kid hiding their Game Boy under their pillow so they won't be caught by mom. All right, listen, I feel personally attacked by this relatable content, and shame on you. Shame on you for calling me out like that. How dare you? Well, Naria had just about enough of his bullshit and decided to get his attention by grabbing him by the collar of his robe. Now, this freaked everyone out because there's always a chance that she could touch skin doing this. And if she does, then there's no way this squishy wizard would survive her curse. The DM called a dex check, and I rolled just enough to pass. Naria's curse didn't activate, but it freaked the shit out of Cole, who did the most extensive research on her curse and knows full well what it's capable of. She leaned in close to him and, politely, told him to never raise a friend. Ever. The intimidation check went through, and Cole had to calm her down so they could negotiate. This resulted in a deal which allowed Cole to reanimate corpses as long as they weren't friends in life, or which Naria had not already given a send-off/burial to. I'll admit this was a very risky move. If she had killed him by accident, she might have lost favor with the party and even with her god. However, this was the first time she snapped at the party, and after all the pain, sorrow, and heartbreak she endured throughout this campaign, no one could really blame her. My bard was paying the camp we set up, fuming that he was outvoted to go to the next town instead of going to the nearby dungeon. We had cleared a difficult mini-boss encounter earlier. I told the DM that I was going to strike a stone with all my strength, and DM asked me to roll a strength check. Nat 20. Then he rolled a couple dice and looked at me. You kicked the stone with so much force that it goes through the trees and brush and brains of the bandit leader, who was convincing his group to attack your party. The rest fled after seeing their boss die. Fernando Escobar was a half-elven swashbuckler turned hexblade after the ship he grew up on was attacked, sank, and his whole adopted family killed. After barely making it to shore and civilization, he sought the power to enact revenge, and found it in the warm, dark embrace of the Raven Queen. His demeanor initially was a bit foppish, very Han Solo-y, a good-natured scoundrel with a quick wit, but as he delved deeper into the ways of the hexblade, he became more ruthless and cruel, to the point where the other PCs were giving him a wide berth. One of the PCs finally lost it when I used the feature from the hexblade's curse and stole the life force of the enemy I had cursed. I have a feeling that if COVID hadn't stopped our campaign, one of us would have had to retire our character. My first pseudo-combat with a new character, a Viking-based storm sorcerer named Vogr. The ship was in a bad storm, and we had gathered that it was unnatural. I spotted a figure in the crow's nest and went to investigate. Tried to climb up the ladder, I get blown off by the wind. I cast warding wind on myself to counteract it. Get 50 feet up the ladder, about 20 feet from the figure. I jump about 5 feet up, cast lightning lure to try and pull them. Nope. I then bamf my familiar, a cat, up there with him. As I fall back onto the deck, I cast Shocking Grasp through my familiar. It broke the caster's concentration. He climbed down to investigate, and the entire party surrounded him. We fought. He lost. Our super nice dragonborn druid screwed up the other guy's hands with his claws so he couldn't cast somatic components. It was great. But the image in my mind of a 250-pound Viking dropping from the sky as a cat stopped a raging thunderstorm is pretty fear-inducing to me. My first time playing D&D, I was a 6'5", 500-pound mutant dwarf named Arcturus. Our party was riding on a wagon pulled by cows when we were ambushed by goblins. I jumped off the wagon, picked up a cow, and threw it, instantly killing a goblin. It was our friend's first time DMing and our first time playing, so he let us screw around with the stats a little just for fun. This is less fear-inducing and more fear-invoking, but here we go. Here's some context. I was playing an online session recently, and we'd been talking to this high-ranking ruler when 6 debt collectors broke in. We had a cleric, a barbarian, a sorcerer, and myself. All of us had dark vision. We rolled some high checks and were able to put out the lights in the room, making it pitch black. We went on a massacre, and after rolling a nat 20, I decapitated the head debt collector with magic missile. The remaining bad guy literally shat himself. We chopped off his legs and stopped the bleeding so he couldn't run away. He is now a human backpack for the barbarian. And that is how you D&D. Party just exited a small goblin village with 2 mountain goats our druid stole, tied them together, easy peasy. Uh-oh, 3 wolves surround us and the goats. We roll for initiative. Rogue goes first, I go second. Rogue stabs nearest wolf, 7 damage. My turn. I rolled a nat 20 attack roll, 24 damage total. Our DM described my character, a dragonborn fighter, walking up to the wolf like a lumberjack, swinging his axe over the wolf and slicing it in half. The rest of the wolves got so intimidated, they ran away. Is a monk druid Aarakocra. Her personality ranges from cold-hearted bitch to psychotic murderer. There's a scale I have that tips in either direction based on what happens. Our DM brought us to a madhouse, aka fail a save and you go mad. Immediately tips all the way into psychopath. We all end up dying in hallucinations. Specifically rightly guesses a cursed sword will kill her. We wake up in a field. I don't remember the exact wording, but someone basically said to kill them, and was way too happy to oblige. Of course, she was stopped. Motherly instincts, which overpowers her scale, kicked in with one of the people crying, and they brought back from the edge. Later, different with a different DM, West March's server, a similar thing happened. But it was using fears and shit to mess with us. We get separated and finds herself in a carnival tent with her allies' dead bodies around her. A voice tried to make her feel guilt that she did this, but is less than apathetic. In fact, picks up Alice, a mousefolk, and eats the body. I unleashed the really evil side of and it was horrific. Really? You're gonna make me pronounce that? I'm not gonna. I don't know how to pronounce that. Then there's, she loves owlbears. We were trying to stop poachers. They made it clear there was a boss. And while interrogating them, she picks on and drags him to a bear trap, holding him over and threatening to drop them if they didn't tell us the boss's name. She didn't. She dropped him. His neck was crushed. He lived, but he definitely wouldn't speak again. And are violent motherfuckers. That would be the time my human fighter and the rest of the party, a Minotaur barbarian, half-orc paladin, drow rogue, and 2 NPCs, our dwarven guide, and a wild girl who is our ally. We somehow stumbled into some sort of a sealed-off, cursed land where we had to walk in an open field surrounded by fog to a mansion in the distance with a black sun above us. We had to make camp and sleep along the way. While we all slept, we each had a nightmare. Mine had me in the field, trying not to get sucked up into the black sun. I was woken up by our Minotaur barbarian as I was sucked in. So in fear, I grabbed the closest solid object I could, his horns. When we made it into the mansion, we got magically separated, each of us reliving our nightmare, but now the sun had bright red eyes. I looked up and said, "Golf, son!" And a black shadow dropped from the sun, taking the shape of a shadow panther with red eyes. It chased me around while I tried to fight it off. I couldn't hurt it, but it could hurt me. I found a strange stone plate on the ground that teleported me back to the others. Now that we were together again, we explored the mansion. Each room had your typical haunted house deal. Rooms full of ghosts, magic portals to ungodly places, haunted torture equipment. Our dwarven guide was in a room bound like a mummy with bodies strung up around him, and a large naked man in the corner. We got him out and locked the door behind us. Looking outside, the sun has now turned blood red, and the ground was being sucked up into it. We get to the final room where our ally is now possessed by the shadow beasts. We each fought when we got separated. As we get done dealing with that, the roof is torn off by the sun, and a portal appeared above us. We're sucked into it, falling out outside of town. My human fighter now has PTSD at this point, and cursing the sun. I had my memories wiped while drunk off my ass, but I still have nightmares of the sun. Hail and well met, and thank you for sticking to the very edge of your seat to the very end of this video. If you would like to share your character's most fear-inducing moment with the community, you can do so in the comments below. And as always, if you've got another story you'd like to share with the community, please do so in our official subreddit, r/MrRipper. If you're looking to find a group to tabletop game with, feel free to join us over at Mr. Ripper's Group Finder, a Discord server we've purpose-built to help you find a group. This week, I hope you get that level up you've been working towards. If you want more of this candy, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Dave Makes Noises. Thank you again for watching, you wonderful being you. Please sub for Nat 20s, ring the bell if you're punctual as all get out, and maybe give us a little likey poo, and we'll see you on the next one.